joined. We are now live for week 8 of fantasy football. It's Mike and Joe tonight, just the two of us. And Joe, I know you just told me before we went on, you were very disappointed in James for not being
disappointed.
here.
He's not here this week. You let me down. It's enough. I got to play him next week. I mean, I would hope you'd be there then.
He's if you beat him next week, which we'll talk about more in a few days, but if you beat him next week, he probably won't show his face on here ever again or the rest of the season. Just saying.
I thought he was my pal.
We'll see. Bentley agrees.
Bentley's cheering for me.
Yeah. All right, so we'll look at the standings. Joe, you're way out in front. 7-0 after the somewhat lucky win.
Week last week.
Lucky week. You pulled a win you pulled off against Glenn last week, who is looking at the standings a bit pretty deep into the last place in the North and in a bit of a hole. Division leaders, Joe, obviously a huge lead in the South at 3 games. James is up 2 games in the Central over everybody. Everybody else is 3 and 4. Close race in the North. Justine's clinging on by half a game over Brendan. Brandon's gotten close to catching up to her, but he hasn't been able to do it yet. Games in a row. Wild card spots. Brendan, John, and Larry hold the wild card spots in that order, with the 3 and 4 Central teams, myself, Rob, and Mo, right behind them. So that's got a long way to go with 6 weeks left. We'll start with game of the week, Joe. This is Larry against Mr. Trump. Yeah.
We have Couch and the businessman. Let's see.
And the businessman. It's interesting. Larry's won 2 in a row. Brendan's won 4 in a row. These two guys are both in playoff spots right now. They both have pretty good records. However, I don't know if you noticed this, Joe. Larry's 10th in points and Brendan's 11th in points.
I did not notice. League.
They're very low in the points scored category, and yet they have winning records. Yeah, you can tell how much I like that. I'm not a fan of them. Of course, if you remember, also this was the dreaded Week 1 tie game. The first two, and these two played 107 to 107.
Yeah.
I
would honestly laugh if they tied again.
Well, if they tied again, I don't think that either of them.
Wouldn't that kind of be a win to each one of them?
No. It would be the equivalent. 2 ties is the equivalent of 1 win and 1 loss.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So I mean, honestly, yeah, there's not. It's really at this point, I really think it would just hurt both of them. We've, of course, never had any more than 1 tie in a season. So, I highly doubt it will happen, but you never know. Brandon's in a bit of a pickle this week, entering the week. He's without Antonio Brown, who's on a bye.
It looks like he's getting hit with buys.
He is. Look at that list. If you can see, there's 7 people.
Ouch.
This is a big bye week for him.
It's even worse than my buys.
Yes. Now, in all fairness, Larry, just as he's been all season, a lot of injuries. Though, to be fair, Brendan also has Matt Jones is out. So he's down a running back there. Larry's down at least 1 running back. However, he may get Des Bryant back this week for the first time since week 2. I do think, Brendan actually, you see here, Larry's a 17-point favorite. Brendan actually closed the gap because Kendall Wright, who was projected for 6 points, got 19 on Thursday night.
Wow. That's more like a 10-point game then.
Yeah, that was a surprise, I think, to Brendan's delight that Kendall Wright, he played him for the first time. I think he just picked up Kendall Wright, and he played really well. I do think without Antonio Brown, though, Brendan's going to have a tough time. I'm biased, obviously, with Des Bryant, the Cowboy, but I do like Des Bryant, and he has, I I know I mentioned to you earlier, Joe, about C.J. Anderson's out. He has Denver's backup running back, Devontae Booker, who's now the starter.
Yeah.
So that you were mentioning how Larry collects backup running backs. This is where it kind of pays off.
Yeah.
I think Larry wins this week, and Brendan is due for a loss, considering
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
gotten very lucky.
just looking at the overall stats right now, I mean, even considering that Brendan has taken a bit of a jump, from Kendall Wright. Kendall Wright doesn't put those numbers out all the time. So, I mean, personally, I kind of see Larry pulling the week out. I think he'll, succeed this week.
I do want to point out Brendan got a good night from Kendall Wright, but however, he also had Chris Ivory. I forgot to mention Thursday night. Ivory got a whopping 1 point, just one.
So that's even something that hurt him.
In a sense, he balanced out a little bit for Brendan. Yeah, I don't think Brendan wins this one. And if Larry does win this one, they'll be tied in the standings, but Larry will have that head-to-head tiebreaker.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I don't think either team's going to score above 120, but
these two guys need to be prepared to make moves.
Yeah.
In the month left before the trade deadline, because you have to think luck comes back around at some point, and both of these guys have gotten very lucky this season. I did want to point out before we move on to the next game, by the way, which is yours, Joe. We haven't had a trade yet in the regular season.
Yeah. Normally there's at least one, maybe two trades by now.
Yeah, we've never gone this late in a regular season without a trade, and it's very interesting that nobody's made a move yet, considering how many. I mean, every team has a spot where they can improve. So
even my team, and I'm holding a nicely winning record right now. And even I can improve my team. I'm not going to admit that I can't. I mean, my team's not perfect.
Yeah. No, there is no dominant team that you can just be like, oh, well, they're perfect. You don't have to make a move. So I'm sure we'll see something.
And like I was telling you earlier, you look at my bench. I have room to add, with Arian Foster retiring now, 3 guys I can add to my bench.
Right. There is only we're less of the trade deadline's the day before Thanksgiving. So that's November 23rd. That's less than a month away. So the clock is ticking as far as trade deadlines are concerned. So we'll have to see. Next up is your game, Joe. You're going against Mo. I know what your feelings are on this week. You don't think you're going to win.
I just have a feeling Mo will beat me this week. But I mean, hey, if I win, I win. I'll keep rolling with it. But I mean, Mo's team's been surprising as of late.
Mo got off to a very good start. She's lost her last 2. Last week she was without Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboy, which you can't really blame her for losing last week. She was just hit with buys. Roethlisberger's injury has not helped her. This is, you can see what ESPN thinks of this. They have you only favored by 4. Of course, you had DeMarco Murray on Thursday night, but he did exactly what he projected to do. He did his projection on the money.
He brought in his 19.
So the projection isn't changing at all. Except you said Blunt apparently got docked points.
Yeah, he was originally projected, I think, like a 12, and they docked him.
So I know I mentioned this to you earlier, Joe. Your wide receivers are the one spot where you're weak right now. Simply because really all these 3 guys who are your starters, Nelson, Jeffrey, Macklin, all of them have been very disappointing.
At least in the last, I'll say, few weeks, they've been very disappointing. Macklin's been a bit disappointing for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
And Alshon, I kind of just put him on there as a wide receiver anyway.
Right. Jeffrey's not performing like he did when he was on my team last year. And as I said, Macklin's 50th in wide receiver scoring. That's not good.
No.
With that said, it's interesting, this matchup. Both of you guys may have between you and Mo, between the 2 of you have the 2 best running back duos in the league.
Yeah.
You have Murray, who's 2nd in scoring. Blunt is 6th, and Mo has Gordon, who's third, and Elliott, who's fifth. So this is kind of a running back heavy showdown.
And I mean, I'm also taking that run with Breeze this week. We've played Seattle, who has one of the best pass defenses, and he's currently like the number 3 quarterback.
It's tough. Seattle has had some good games, but their defense has had some bad games too.
Yeah, it all depends on, I guess, who they're playing, how well they're scouted.
Yeah, it's the Falcons lit Seattle up. Matt Ryan had a huge game against them a few weeks ago. So, I mean, Breeze may be able to.
Anything can happen.
He may be able to exceed 15 points is low for Breeze, considering he's averaging almost 23 a game this year. Yeah. So he may be able to do something with it. Personally, I think you're more of a favorite than ESPN. I don't think ESPN's giving you quite enough credit. I do think you're gonna. I think you're gonna win. I mean, you are much stronger at tight end, which is a huge deal.
I mean, it's tight end's one of those positions that a lot of people downplay a lot. And I remember, years ago when I had Gonzo, he destroyed when it came to points. Like, I would have my wide receiver core plus Gonzo. It was like having 4 top-notch wide receivers.
Right. And that's where you've been able to make up a wide receiver, because basically your tight ends have been helping out in that department. Mo has had tight end is a big problem with Zach Ertz. He hasn't been good this year. And I think he's been hurt for part of the year as well. I think I'm picking you to win. I know you don't think you're going to win, but
I just have a feeling this will be the week that that I lose, that I get a scratch on my record. But I'd rather lose now than in the postseason.
Right. So we're going to move on to me. This is one of those weird games. I'm playing Rob. We're both 3-4. This is obviously the reason this is so high up the pecking order is because this is an important game between 2, 3, and 4 teams. Because whoever wins this is going to be able to really catapult themselves back into the playoff race, and then the loser is in trouble.
Yeah.
Or is at least going to have a much tougher road at 3 and 5. So this is a very big game. It's a very big game. So this projection's a little off, as you can tell, because LaShawn McCoy is in Rob's lineup. It looks like he's not going to play this week with the hamstring injury. I don't know. Rob is. I don't know who he has on his bench, but obviously, considering how good McCoy's been when he's been healthy, it's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
I think McCoy's his most valuable player.
Help him not having McCoy on his bench or on his main roster.
No, it's not. Other than McCoy, to be fair, I lost C.J. Anderson. So we both have lost running backs. So we're really both even. Neither of us has really anybody on a bye. So it's a pretty even matchup in that regard. And once he replaces his running back, the projection is going to be pretty even as well. Rob did make up a lot of ground on Thursday night. His kicker, he had the Tennessee kicker, Ryan Suckup. Suckup had 12 points.
Yeah, Tennessee had a good game last night.
Yeah, they dominated Jacksonville last night. I didn't. I have no intention of watching that game. It sounded boring as anything. It's funny because I look at every week. I put in my lineups and then I punch numbers in it. Every week I say, "Oh, I think I'm going to win," because on paper it looks like I'm going to win, but fantasy football is not played on paper. With that said, I do like my chances this week, even though I think Jordan Matthews bounces back, and I actually am taking a bit of a chance playing C.J. Fedorowicz at tight end. You probably have not heard of him, Joe.
I have not heard of him.
No, I just picked him up a couple weeks ago.
So I mean, I don't pay attention to him unless they're like top 10 or greater.
Yeah, well, he's on his way up. You can see he's 15th now. He's gotten a lot of playing time recently, and I like him. So I'm taking I haven't gotten anything out tight end this year. It's been a big weakness for me, so I'm taking a chance.
I would
I'm
trade
going to
you,
need
Mike,
it because Well, we'll talk another time, but I'm gonna need it because Rob, he has Matt Ryan at quarterback, who's been
Yeah.
really shockingly good this
Yeah,
year.
somehow he's the number one
Um,
quarterback, somehow.
he
Very,
is. I believe Breeze has more points. Ryan hasn't had his bye week yet, so Breeze is going to pass him
yeah.
eventually. But Ryan's been really good, and the Cardinals' defense is number 2 defense.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're
Famously.
just ahead of, the Broncos.
Yeah. With that said, I do have the top 2 wide receivers in fantasy, which is where obviously a lot of my team's points come from. The
Yep.
big problem and the reason I'm really 3 and 4 is my team's just been so wildly inconsistent. As I've mentioned, I
Yeah.
don't know what team I'm getting in a given week. And it goes for Julio Jones and AJ Green. They seem to have good weeks together and bad weeks together this season, just coincidentally, and it's killing me.
Yeah.
Um,
Even if one had a good week and one had a bad week on one week, that would still be
At
consistent.
least, at least I want consistency. I can't take this up and down, up and down. I'm either blowing people out or I'm getting blown out, and it's driving me crazy.
Looks like you need one more
So,
good running back.
well, we'll see. I mean, I'm at the point. I'm kind of in a spot, and we'll have to see where I'm at. Where I'm probably going to have to make a move at some point, make a trade, even if it's a minor one, and just picking up a role player. Because my team, I just don't know. I have so many guys that are just going up and down, up and down. I just don't know where to make a trade.
Yeah.
So, but I'll have to figure out. Who do you pick here, Joe?
Um, depending on how Matt Ryan's week goes, if he's able to beat Green Bay, I think I think Rob may be able to pull this one out this week. But if Matt Ryan can't, I see you winning it this week, Mike.
Okay, you're leaving the window. You're leaving a open-ended prediction there. I do.
Somebody had to fill in for James. I mean, he's not here.
Yeah, he says that. He says those types of things all the time. This was actually the only close game I played. I played Rob in week 2, and he beat me by 5, which was
Yeah.
that was a killer. Yeah. It's
It
really
sucks to lose by 2 points. Hashtag Glenn.
yeah. Hashtag Glenn. Oh, Glenn, poor Glenn. We'll get to Glenn in a minute. Um, yeah, I mean, and you see, the first time we played was actually very high scoring, 152,
Yeah.
147. So we'll see what happens. But I like my chances. But as you said, Matt Ryan has a big day. Could put me in a bit of a hole.
That could spoil your entire game.
Yeah,
And I mean, you also don't know how consistent your wide receivers are going to be this week either.
I don't know what the hell my team's gonna do anymore. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Mike, they could both bring you in 40 points each, but I mean, they could both only bring you in 4 points each.
It's just been a strange season. It's been a really strange season. I don't even know what to say. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm hoping my team gets consistent and we can, get
Get
enough
yourself
wins to
back in
get
the
back
playoff
into
hunt.
this. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, this is, as we said, this is a big game because the winner is going to be in a lot better of a position and the loser is going to be in a lot worse position here.
Yeah.
So, and we're going on to James, who is playing Coy this week, as you
And
can
he's
see.
missing half of his lineup.
Makes missing just a couple spots in his
Okay,
lineup.
2 of his guys, but
Two of his guys. He's going against Woj, who is 1-2 of 3. Lost a tough one last week. Woj, we know he's had his problems. Woj is really reaching. You can see he is playing.
Yeah, he's digging
Here's a
deep.
guy. Here's a guy who I didn't know of until today. Look at this guy. Look at this name, Capri Bibbs. I think that's
What
how you say
name?
his name, Capri Bibbs.
I thought capris were a pair, like pant shorts that ladies wore.
They are.
Okay.
That's a new name. He is the new Denver
That's better.
backup running back, and Woj, you guess he's rolling the dice on
Probably
this
just
one.
taking that gamble like I normally do.
Well, I think the reason he's doing it, again, this is the bye week issue. Look at all the guys on bye. He
Yeah.
has 5 running backs on bye.
Ouch.
So he does not have any running back. running backs to play. So he picked up, I guess he picked them up today, this Capri Bibbs, and he's playing him. I don't think that's not good. And I did want to point this out so Ty Montgomery, who's been a wide receiver for the Packers, ESPN, I think it was last week, has decided to make him a running back wide receiver for the rest of the season.
Wow.
Because the Packers are lining him up at running back a lot. So that is actually saving James with his running back problems. It seems like James has had a lot of good luck this year with these types of things. He's gotten away with. We've talked time and again about how bad his running backs are, but he's lost Eddie Lacy probably for the rest of the fantasy season. Tevin Coleman's now hurt. Terrence West is on a bye, and yet he's able to escape this week because he is able to play essentially a wide receiver at running back.
I'm still curious. Why is he not playing Tom Brady? Because
that's an interesting point. I just noticed that he's benching Tom Brady against Buffalo this week.
Because Tom Brady's just going to explode, and we all know it.
I guess because Buffalo does have a very good defense. However, I agree with you. I don't think with Brady, as well as Brady is playing right now, I don't think you can bench him.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think you can.
When I had Brady last year, I took some heat, for drafting. I'm like, oh, he's going to be out the first few weeks. You're gonna be stuck with that, not having a quarterback till week 4. You're gonna lose all them games. I mean, I had him. I played him. I didn't bench him except for his bye. He did great. He exploded last year even. But I mean, even against like the toughest defense, I didn't bench him. He put up no less than 18 last year, if I'm right.
Brady hasn't thrown an interception yet, which is through 4 games. That's pretty good. And as you said, Rodgers has been very inconsistent. Is the best thing I can say about it. He's 11th in scoring for quarterbacks, which is actually that's not like Rodgers.
Yeah, and I mean, Rodgers is supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks around today, and he's just been in a real funk this year.
He's had a rough start. I mean, could he turn it around? Absolutely. Will he turn it around? Who knows? James is very banged up with injuries this week, as you know, and I think that's why defense. I don't know. He may have just not put his defense in, but I don't know who. I think with the injuries is a reason he doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have a flex yet.
I'll be right back, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead. As far as a pick this week, however, I'm definitely still picking James by a tiny margin. He is going to be favored. ESPN will favor him once he fills out his lineup. And Woj, at this point, it's dangerous to rely on a guy like Bibbs at running back when he really has played a very tiny bit. The matchups just don't look good for Woj with Duke Johnson against the Jets, Matt Stafford against Houston, maybe one of his toughest matchup yet this season. The matchups just don't look to be quite in Woj's favor. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think James wins by a tiny bit. You back, Joe?
Yeah, I'm back, at least for right now. But yeah, I see James winning this week unless some miracle happens for Woj. I mean, I know Woj has been digging deep. I mean, sadly, he's hit with the buys. So, I mean, unless Aaron Rodgers completely flops this week, which I'm hoping not, because I need Nelson to score a little bit for me. But, I mean, if Rodgers flops or if he puts Brady in, I see James, winning this match. I mean, he's also got to get the rest of his team filled in there, but.
If Woj didn't have so many running backs on bye, it may be a different story this week. But, what can you do? Everybody runs into those issues. So now it's Glenn's turn.
Yay.
4 losses in a row at this point for Glenn. Very, very tough. And they have not been easy losses. They've been mostly close losses, bad luck losses. And of course, Joe, you know all about how you beat him last week on
Oh, did I
Monday
beat Glenn
night.
last week?
You beat Glenn last week by the skin of your teeth, or is that a saying? I don't know. By a hair.
By the hair
You
on my
beat him.
chinny chin chin. Although I don't know which
Yes, I
one.
mean, yeah, and not for Glenn. I mean, his team's pretty good. I still say his team's pretty good.
Oh yeah, he's
But
got a
coming
solid
back,
team.
right? But when you're 2-5, even if with a good team, it's hard to come back from 2-5 and make the playoffs. It's not impossible, but it's
It's
very
tough.
difficult. He's going against John, who is 4-3. He bounced back with a win last week. He's in a wild card spot, but he's in a position where he does need to keep winning to stay in front. It can get messy in the wild card race with how close everybody is, and a couple losses can sink you.
Yeah.
Glenn's favored by 10 points by ESPN this week, and it's actually I don't agree with it. Glenn being favored. I actually am going to pick John this week. I think some of John's players, some of the projections are very low, particularly Lamar Miller. I think he's going to get more than 15. I think Derek Carr is going to get more than 14. I think Jaquiz Waters is going to get more than 13. I think a lot of John's projections are low. It's worth noting he looks like he may get Dante Moncrief back, the Colts wide receiver who's been out since I think week 1. That's important for John. He's gradually getting a few players back. Glenn's a bit banged up with a bunch of guys questionable, but I don't know if anybody's in danger of missing games. Glenn's got holes. Mark Ingram, he's not an every week dependable guy. Russell Wilson's been a mess this year.
Yeah, he's not the quarterback he was last year.
Well, it's not really his fault. It's Seattle's offensive line is probably the worst in football.
Yeah.
And he's getting killed. If you don't have any protection, what are you going to do? I just don't like Glenn's team's a little. He's got a great running back in David Johnson. Amari Cooper's played well for most of the year. He's got the top defense. I like John's matchups, and I think this is going to be another one of those close games that Glenn just won't be able to pull out.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one, Mike.
It stinks for Glenn, but at the same time, it's one of those. Yeah, I know he's favored, but I'm going Glenn or John. So we're flying through. We're in our last game here. We're on to everybody's favorite.
Even Bentley's favorite.
My favorite too, Bentley. Bentley's favorite too. So the watch for the imperfect season is on for Chris at 0-7. He's playing Justine, who really, in all seriousness, I joke around about Chris's games, but Justine is barely the North. Be quiet. She's barely leading the North. She does need to keep winning if she wants to maintain her lead.
I agree.
And it's interesting. Chris actually got there was a lot of players on both teams. Both Justine and Chris had 2 players each playing on Thursday night. Right now they're tied up 23-23. And the projection, Justine's only leading by I think 7 now. So, you're talking about you feel like you may lose this week, Joe. Chris might win.
Yeah, I might lose. Chris might win. I mean, what are the odds?
He has not updated his team yet for this week. You can see he has
still has Odell.
Player. However, he also does not have a wide receiver to play in Beckham's spot. So he's going to need to pick somebody up, or if he doesn't update his team, well, then he'll end up with a 0, and I will not be happy.
You won't be happy, or he won't be happy.
I am very against, and I understand, when you get to 0-7, you don't want to update your team and stuff, but I'm pretty, what do you call it? As a commissioner, I'm pretty strict with, and this, just at least update your lineup.
That's why we have the neglection system thing that we have.
Yes, right. And I've done it before where a team, it's been a long time, but I think it was 2010, a team was abandoned. And essentially the league took it over and just ran it for the rest of the season. Um, so I guess that's a kind of a sort of warning thing. Chris could win, though, if he does update his team this week. He could win.
Yeah, updates his team, maybe makes a trade.
At this point, there's no saving his season.
Hey, it's possible. He could somehow get a wild card berth. He just have to win every game from this week out.
He'd have to win every game. Yeah, he'd have to win every game, and he would need a lot of help. He would need the standings to work out that a 6 and 7 team gets in the playoffs, which happens rarely. Very rarely.
But it has happened.
It has happened twice. So it's happened. It's rare. Justine's actually showing. We talk about you have a few holes. James has a few holes. Justine's shown holes as well. Bagged up at running back. You see, she gave up. She has a big quarterback problem. She finally gave up on Blake Bortles.
Thank God.
He
was killing her.
Justine needs to find a quarterback. I think she's got the biggest quarterback problem of every team in the league.
I think she should make a trade with James, if anything.
The problem is, and this is my opinion, James would ask for too much if trading Brady or Rodgers.
Yep.
And I just don't think you should spend that much on quarterback. Now, this is the thing I want to point out, though, Joe. I mean, you've got guys like Breeze that are averaging 23 points a game at quarterback. Justine's quarterbacks are averaging like 10 points less than that. I mean, that's a significant margin, a number of points she's losing at quarterback.
Oh, I agree.
Allen Robinson, he's been very ordinary for her, one of her keepers. The biggest issue she has is Le'Veon Bell and Jay Ajayi are both off this week. So even though Chris is also missing his 2 best players, she is missing her 2 top running backs. And she's depending on Jeremy Langford, who probably won't play this week, to play. So Justine's very banged up this week. If she was playing any other team in the league, I think she loses. However, because she's playing Chris, I think she wins in what is going to be it could be a low-scoring game. This may be the first game this year where I think neither team gets to 100.
That's very possible.
We haven't had that. We haven't had a game that low scoring yet. We usually have 1 or 2 of those a year where a team wins without scoring 100. I think we're going to finally see that this week with Justine wins. What do you think?
I like Justine's team a lot, but being hurt on the with bye weeks, it's going to be a really tough week for her. And I think if she can pull this week out and break 100 points. 110 points, I think she'll be fine for the rest of her season. As long as she's maybe able to make some work at a quarterback or find a better quarterback. I mean, she did improve over what she had, so I can't, blame her too much. She's making do with what she's got.
Yeah, but I mean, this goes back to there hasn't been any trades yet. I'm surprised that there hasn't been any trades yet because everybody has significant holes. Every team, I shouldn't say significant, but every team has noticeable holes. And there hasn't just been I do know we've had fewer and fewer trades as the years have gone on, and we do have a lot of conservative traders in this league. People that aren't going to make a deal unless it's right for them, and unfortunately, it's very hard to make a trade that's right for both sides.
I mean, personally, when I look at a trade, I look at how it's going to benefit me. If it's going to benefit a position that I need, I'll definitely consider it. But if somebody's offering me a tight end when I already have 3 tight ends, why would I accept that trade?
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. There's a few people that offer trades not thinking about what other teams need. And you do have to think about be smart with your offers, but there hasn't been any. I know there's been trade offers going around. A few people have mentioned that they've made offers to people, and nothing's come of them. But I'm just surprised we've gotten to this point. Nobody's made a move, and I expect we'll see a couple before Thanksgiving. You have to think, especially with the teams that are kind of maybe not teams at the top and the teams that are kind of clumped up in the middle. Because there's not a whole lot separating. If you go back to the standings, there's not a lot separating some of these guys in the middle.
Yeah, and there's got to be some kind of give or take.
Eventually, I mean, even last year I didn't make a trade because I had the best record. I felt I had the best team, and I had no reason to. I am not in that position this year. I'm going to be a little bit more open-ended with that. But we'll see what happens. I mean, we have 6 weeks to go until the playoffs. Now, a lot can happen. Truly, nobody's really out of it.
Yeah.
Even though Chris, barring a miracle, Chris is. But for everybody else, nobody else is really out of it. That's about it. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, Joe?
No, I mean, hey, this week went by pretty quick. I mean, no James to beat us up with his words of wisdom.
Yeah, James.
Christine and Larry let us down too.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to bug them.
I know they're married. They have a life outside of this thing.
They do. Oh, I have a life.
So do I, but I don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kidding with this, James, but it is incredible how much quicker the video goes when you're not here.
I'm surprised we got through it in about a half hour.
We got through all the matchups in about a half hour, and we talked about everything, but
we didn't elaborate.
We did not elaborate that much.
We didn't thoroughly elaborate. Sorry, James.
Yeah. I did want to put. I don't think I pointed this out on air, but the top scorer trend that I pointed out to everyone. I have 3 top scorer awards and 3 wins this year. I don't win a top scorer award. I'm 0-4. So I need to win top scorer awards apparently to win my games.
Apparently, that's the only way you can win, Mike.
And well, as I mentioned to you earlier tonight, one more top scorer award, and I tie the single season record that Glenn set back in 2012 with 4.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, that was the year where he dominated. He had that really dominant team, which
I don't think Glenn wants you to wipe away his records now.
Glenn has plenty of records. Trust me, he has plenty of records. He can afford to lose one. Be honestly, to win another top scorer award, I'm not expecting to. I'd rather just get into the playoffs. I don't care how I win. I just want to win. I don't want any more of this inconsistent bull. Anyway, I'm tired of my team's inconsistent crap, and I just want.
You don't want a top scorer award every time you win, Mike?
No, I just want to win. Please, Bentley's team, Bentley's bunch, please stop with the inconsistent junk. Just do the same thing. Just keep an even level, but an even level that's good enough, not a bad even level. All right, that's it. We'll be back next week.